So when I moved to science, when I moved to science, then I would go to laboratories. My alma mater, Northwestern, the laboratories there, and meet with the scientists, understand what it is they're looking for, what it is they like about our reagents, what their goals are, how we can help them get there, and take all those ideas down and understand how we can
Yeah.
serve them better and how we can position our products in a way that is most relevant to them and
Yeah.
really celebrates who they are as scientists.
Hello, and welcome to episode 10 of the Reagent podcast. This podcast is brought to you by OnePointe Solutions, the leader in U.S. lab design and construction. On today's episode, I talked to Kris Barnette. Kris is the founder and CEO of All Good Marketing. He spent several years at Thermo Fisher Scientific, marketing to life science professionals, and has built up a large body of knowledge in this space. In this episode, we talk about running marketing teams and how to communicate with life science professionals. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Kris.
Since, after all, this is a life science podcast, I do want to start by understanding within your illustrious marketing career, how did you first get into the life sciences, and what was that experience like?
Sure, my entry into the life sciences was kind of an evolution of my marketing career, where I am focused. My core is focused on integrated marketing communications, regardless of the industry that I'm serving. But after I worked in the software industry for a while, and we were able to achieve our objective of letting our investors cash out and sell our company or sell the software company to a larger entity, I was on the job search again. Well, it was either move to Chicago or move to Ireland or find another job. So I started searching, and Thermo Fisher was right down the street, and I applied and worked for them in their radiation measurement and identification area and their chemical analysis division. And after several years serving as their integrated marketing communication manager, I was starting to get a little bored. I wanted some new challenges. So there's lots of opportunities. One of the nice things about Thermo Fisher is there's a lot of opportunities to explore different career changes. So you looked at what areas we wanted to live in as a family, and Portland, Austin, where you are, some of those cities we started looking in, and sure enough, the one in Eugene, formerly Molecular Probes, now Thermo Fisher Scientific. There's an opportunity there, and I started working there as their global market development manager for imaging reagents.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Nice.
that was.
And so, what would you say are your biggest management principles that you built on in your time at Thermo?
Sure. No, that's a great question. I would say that it's really about empathetically understanding who your customers are and what their needs are, and kind of how they identify as a scientist. There's a lot of fun, nerdy things you can do, to bring out, or fun, creative things you can do to bring out that inner nerd and make people feel empowered for the research that they're doing. And obviously, imaging reagents are an important part of what cell scientists or cell biologists are using.
Sure.
It's important for them to have those good quality images, not only so that they can demonstrate what it is that they're trying to focus on, but also the better those images are, the more likely they are to get published. And that's what's really important. Once you understand that the core of what they're trying to achieve is to continue getting published so that they can continue getting the research financed, that's a key element. Understanding, being empathetic. What are the challenges they're going through? How
Sure.
can we help them? Yeah.
And can I hear just from like a bird's eye view what imaging reagents are and like what that whole ecosystem is, from a scientific perspective?
Sure. For cell analysis, imaging reagents are like the fluorescent dyes that you penetrate the cell wall and attach themselves to different cellular structures, different elements of a cell, so that you can view them and understand what type of transformations are taking place due to a stimulus that you're trying, whether it be a pharmaceutical or a gel or whatever it is. You are able to watch that. Um, you're able to see what's happening. And the imaging reagents are the fluorescent dyes that help you see that.
Gotcha. And so, um, what would you say are the biggest differences? And I know you talked about trying to bring out people's nerdy side and trying different creative things. But what would you say are the biggest differences that you noticed moving from software marketing to life science marketing?
I really feel like with science,
Or maybe it's all common threads. I don't know.
No, that's actually a good question. I think with science, it's so academically based, and there's so much effort that goes into it. In the software industry that I was in, it was for GPS fleet tracking. So you have a lot of companies with many different vehicles. They want to know where they are and how efficient they are, and if it's a cable company, how efficient they are in taking care of a consumer's need, getting back on the road, taking care of the next consumer's need. It's not as all-consuming as science, where if you're a scientist, you study for years and years and years, and there's a lot of culture around that, a lot of theater around that, and a lot of insight around that whole academic persona, and you can leverage that in your marketing efforts if you know the people, if you know them well, what they're looking for. What they need in the laboratory, what their goals are, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
I think, and that's ties in nicely to a whole area of expertise that you have that I really enjoyed hearing about in our first call. Is this field of ethnographic research, and so I think this is a great segue. Can you kind of explain what that whole thing is and the different ways you've used it?
Sure. Thanks for that segue, Matt. I thought this would be a good time to start talking about some ethnographic research. So ethnographic research is really basically going into the workspace or the living space of the person who is your core segment or your core prospect, and understand how it is they interact with these products, what it is that they're looking for in these products. Scanning around the environment that they work in, and identify opportunities for not only marketing, but for product development opportunities as well. So when I was in the software industry, I would visit our fleet managers, and to understand what it is that they were tracking. So when I moved to science, when I moved to science, then I would go to laboratories. My alma mater, Northwestern, the laboratories there, and meet with the scientists, understand what it is they're looking for, what it is they like about our reagents, what their goals are, how we can help them get there, and take all those ideas down and understand how we can serve them better and how we can position our products in a way that is most relevant to them and really celebrates who they are as scientists.
Interesting.
No,
go on.
Well, scientists are a lot more creative than you'd think. And I think in business-to-business marketing, we're just beginning to understand that it's not just what's a good way to say it? You'll probably have to edit this out now. But
That's raw.
Oh man, now I'm in trouble.
No, you're good. I can edit if you want. So what are you looking to describe?
So it's that scientists, there's a lot to celebrate. I think when you understand that all the effort and work and the mission, the scientists have a very distinct mission, and they're set on those goals. And the more that you can convince or authentically demonstrate that you are there to help them achieve that, and that you're an ally and you're giving them not only the products, but the tools, training, techniques, processes, workflows, and then you also understand who they are and all that work that they've gone through to get them to where they are. You appreciate all of that. Your customers are going to acknowledge that.
I agree. I think there's a huge opportunity for storytelling compared to other industries, because you're looking at a fleet manager. They probably didn't get into fleet management because some horrible tragedy happened to one of their relatives. Whereas like someone goes into rare disease research a lot of times because they feel a calling or a mission. People go into CBD and cannabis testing because they have a niece or a daughter who's has seizures and they need some kind of treatment. There's I think people enter a calling in the sciences much more than other fields, and that provides like a greater vehicle for empathy and marketing and connecting.
Absolutely, Matt. That's a really good analogy too, because so many of the scientists that I've spoken to did get into it because of a family member or because it became a personal mission for them. So you're absolutely right. I think that there's a higher commitment in the scientific community than you get in a lot of other industries where it's just somebody who happened to get into, fleet management.
Now, I want to just rewind a little bit, and I want to get tactical and like drill down into the ethnographic research you mentioned. So you actually, like you mentioned, going to Northwestern, your alma mater, and meeting with those people. I actually want to know, like, for someone, myself included, maybe someone listening wants to start implementing that, what did it actually look like to get started? Like, how did you do one a week? Like what was the coordination of that like? Did you just kind of hit up past customers? Like, how did the rollout of that process work?
Sure, that's a great question. So what I did was I connected with a regional sales manager for that area and asked them if I could shadow them for a day or two while they did their rounds at Northwestern, and then coordinated it at a time that I would be in town, because obviously at that time I was living in Eugene, Oregon, where our Thermo Fisher offices were when I was working. They're still there. So, but one of the challenges there is who wants a marketing person trailing them all day or shadowing them all day. So I wanted to make sure. So in that request to shadow them, I gave them a reason to do that, and that I'll be doing this research to understand our customers better, and I will share that research with you upon its completion. And by the way, we also have a lot of really cool logoed promotional items, and I'll bring those with me too. So and make sure you get some of those. So it sweetens the deal a little bit, makes it a little bit more inviting to have somebody shadow you for a day or two, but they're getting something in return.
Great.
Yeah. So meet for lunch, kind of lay out the plans for the day, and then visit the laboratories and just go, floor by floor, meeting the different people, the different scientists that the regional sales rep is already there familiar with.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So moving on a little bit, now you are an adjunct professor, and as far as I know, like you weren't, that's a relatively new thing for you that you kind of established later in your career. Like what has that journey been like, and how did that get started?
Sure. Well, I've been interested in academics. I taught my first college course in the early 00s,
Gotcha.
Public relations course. But after returning back to Ohio after our stint on the West Coast for a while, we moved back here for aging parents. So I thought, hey, what a better time to get back into academia than when I start my own business. Why not pile it all on top of one another, right? Well, I thought it would be a good way to get to know the network out here, network of businesses here in Ohio, as well as establish some credibility. And I love teaching. Teaching is just a natural, it's in my DNA, I think. So, the stars aligned on this. I had reached out to a couple different different departments, because the communications department has some marketing and social media and things like that. Then the College of Business. Tried communications first. They didn't have any openings. Went to the College of Business, and they were like, timing couldn't be better. We have somebody taking an administrative role temporarily, and we have this opening for you to teach integrated marketing communications, which is what I earned my degree in. So it was just perfect timing. So now I teach integrated marketing communications, consumer behavior on a part-time basis, and I just accepted a new course that I'll be teaching in the fall on social media marketing.
Congrats.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it. Social media marketing is ever changing. It's fluid. So
yeah,
I've got to sharpen my chops a little bit on that.
Sure.
I'm comfortable filling young minds with my old knowledge.
So what is that research like? Are you just on TikTok 5 hours a day now?
Yes. No, I'm just going over the textbook that I'll be teaching and some of the former previous instructors' notes.
Gotcha. And I'm honestly curious. Like, I suppose there were some classes you could take, 5-10 years ago, but nowadays it must be a pretty, I don't know the word, like crystallized teaching syllabus now that there's so much data on it and it's been around for enough time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, programs like Google Analytics will change. They'll be updated, and the algorithms that Google are using are constantly being updated. But overall, the whole standard, the types of measurements that you're doing for engagement, click-through rates, for comment shares, things like that. Those are all the same things that you're measuring. The way that you're measuring them are a little bit different.
Right? Interesting. So it comes at it from a more analytical perspective.
Right.
Like the quantitative side of things.
Right. Well, it's a more broad view than it is a specific view, because those specifics and how to use Google Analytics, it's going to change,
For sure.
Right.
That's exciting. I that's definitely a dream for myself as well. Like hopefully I get to. I know I would enjoy teaching, and it's always something I've been interested in.
And I get the impression you'd be great at it, just from our conversations. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Anything I can do to help on your journey, I'd be happy to help.
I appreciate that. So I think this is probably a good time to wrap up a little bit, and like the ending questions I like to ask are so first, what is a book that you've read recently that's either brought you value or brought you joy, anything like that?
No, that's a good question. The book that I'm reading right now is I've gone back to reread the New Marketing Paradigm. It is Don Schultz. It's the first book on integrated marketing communications. It came out in the 90s. It was written by the father of integrated marketing communications, Don Schultz. And the reason I'm reading it is because he just passed away a couple weeks ago at age 86.
Wow.
But he introduced this idea of integrated marketing communications. And when I became interested in it, Northwestern was the only university that had a graduate program for it. So I attended and had Don Schultz as my own instructor right there in front of me in class. It was like, I'm not worthy, but he was a great instructor, very very inspiring. You would leave his classes feeling like you're walking 10 feet off of the ground, you're just floating. Very, very. I feel fortunate. So with his passing, I've gone back to reread the book and reacquaint myself with the core fundamentals of integrated marketing communications.
Wow, that's really powerful. And I mean, that's someone who has a special place in your heart for sure. So the second one I want to ask is, have you added an app or a tool to your life, like something you use at work, a software, or maybe a Peloton bike or something like that?
That's a really cool. Again, you're asking such good questions. I keep saying that's a great question.
I don't take any credit for this. It's I draw what I can from other podcasts I like, and when I find a valuable thing, I'll grab it. So
gotcha. Well, I actually just got this from a client the other day to do. It's an Oculus.
Ooh.
I'm
jealous.
I didn't know I needed one of these in my life until it arrived. I said,
"Here, I have one of these, real quick."
Oh, way cool. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It's just the PSVR. I mean, for those looking at entry level, if you have a PS4, it's pretty cost effective. But I mean, the Oculus is the cream of the crop there.
Oh, well, I didn't know I needed one until it came in. And one of the first apps I got was a Tai Chi app. It was guided Tai Chi. So that's been really kind of a fun thing that I've been doing.
Awesome.
But and in regards to apps, I've recently been kind of moving from my Apple suite to Google suite of products, which is I really enjoy. I really like the flexibility of it, having all of my core programs all in one place, and I could share those documents across my phone, my iPad, my MacBook. And yesterday I loaded a program called Kiwi for Gmail, which consolidates all of your Gmail accounts, all of your Gmail documents, your Gmail account or your Google Calendar, your Google Contacts, all of that. And that's I'm getting used to it, but so far it looks like it's going to be a positive way for me to improve my efficiencies.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, especially compared to 3-4 years ago, I think even Microsoft Cloud has stepped up a lot. Like I find myself like they're all integrated now. They have they can basically compete on all fronts with Google and stuff like that. It's pretty impressive to see that, because I mean it was all just Google Cloud back in the day. But,
right.
Cool.
But I've really been enjoying Google Slides. I thought, oh, this is going to be awful.
Yeah.
But it's actually kind of cool.
Solid. Solid.
Really.
Yeah. Cool. So is there anything else you want to highlight or promote, before we end the episode?
Sure. Well, I would just say, we're entering that season of the year when we're all doing our annual operating planning. My company, All Good Marketing, is designed to just be an extra resource for those companies that might need a little bit of extra bandwidth to get things done, or just get an outside perspective. So as you're putting together, your viewers are putting together their annual operating plans, feel free to hit me up, and I'd be happy to offer some advice. And if you'd like me to help in the development after we talk about it, I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the interview and for being on the show.
Great. Thank you, Matt. This was a lot of fun. It's great to see you again.